Shalom, Shalom, Shabbat, Adonai. Welcome to the Sixth Exodus program. Thank you for listening. The name of this segment is The Tower of Babel Happening Again. The Tower of Babel will happen again. I'd like to read to you the book of Jasher. I'd like to start with chapter 7, start verse number 18. I will read this chapter and a few others. Don't know yet. We'll just go on till I get a stop sign. Okay, let's begin. The book of Jasher, chapter 7, starting verse number 18. These are the sons of Shem, according to their families, and their numbers in those days were about 300 men. These are the generations of Shem. Shem begot Aphaxaz, and Aphaxaz begot Shelah, and Shelah begot Eber, and to Eber were born two children. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the sons of men were divided, and in the latter days the earth was divided. And the name of the second was Yoktan, meaning that in his days the lives of the sons of men were diminished and lessened. These are the sons of Yoktan: Almodad, Sheleph, Shemarith, Yarak, Harum, Ozel, Dikla, Obal, Abamiel, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these were sons of Yoktan. And Peleg his brother begot Yan, and Yan begot Sherug, and Sherug begot Nahor, and Nahor begot Terah, and Terah was 39 years old, and he begot Haran and Nahor. And Cush, the son of Ham, the son of Noah, took a wife in those days, in his old age, and she bare a son, and they called his name Nimrod, saying, At that time the sons of men began to rebel and transgress against God. And the child grew up, and his father loved him exceedingly, for he was the son of his old age. And the garment of skin which God made for Adam and his wife when they went out of the garden were given to Cush. For after the death of Adam and his wife, the garments was given to Enoch, the son of Jared. And when Enoch was taken up to God, he gave them to Methuselah, his son. And at the death of Methuselah, Noah took them and brought them to the ark, and they were with him until he went out of the ark. And in their going out, Ham stole their garments from Noah his father, And he took them and hid them from his brothers. And when Ham begot his firstborn, Cush, he gave them the garments in secret, and they were with Cush many days. And Cush also concealed them from his sons and brothers. And when Cush had begotten Nimrod, he gave him those garments, through his love for him. And Nimrod grew up, and when he was 20 years old, he put on those garments. And Nimrod became strong when he put on the garments. And God gave him might and strength, and he was a mighty hunter in the earth. Yeah, he was a mighty hunter in the field. And he hunted the animals, and he built altars, and he offered upon them the animals before the Lord. And Nimrod strengthened himself, and he rose up from amongst his brethren, and he fought the battles of his brethren against all their enemies round about. And the Lord delivered all the enemies of his brethren in his hands, and God prospered him from time to time in his battles, and he reigned upon the earth. Therefore, it became current in those days when a man ushered forth those that he had trained up for battle, he would say to them, like God did to Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter in the earth, and who succeeded him in battle, that prevailed against his brethren, that he delivered them from the hand of their enemies, so that God strengthened us and delivered us this day. And when Nimrod was 40 years old, at that time there was war between his brethren and the children of Japheth, so that they were in the power of their enemies. And Nimrod went forth at that time, and he assembled all the sons of Cush and their families, about 460 men. And he hired also from some of his friends and acquaintances about 80 men, and he gave them their hire, and he went with them to battle. And when he was on the road, Nimrod strengthened the hearts of the people that went with him. And he said unto them, do not fear, neither be alarmed, for your enemies will be delivered into your hands, and you may do with them as you please. And all the men, there were about 500, and they fought against their enemies, and they destroyed them and subdued them. And Nimrod placed standing officers over them in their respective places, and he took some of their children as security, and they were all servants to Nimrod and to his brethren. And Nimrod and all the people that were with him returned homeward. And when Nimrod had joyfully returned from battle, after having conquered his enemies, all his brethren, with those who he who knew him before, assembled to make him king over them. And they placed a regal crown upon his head, and he set over his subjects and people and princes and judges and rulers, as is the custom amongst kings. And he placed Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of his host, and he dignified him and elevated him above all the princes. And he was reigning according to his heart's desire, after having conquered all his enemies around. He advised with his counselors to build a city for his palace, and they did so. And they found a large valley opposite to the east, and they built him a large and extensive city. And Nimrod called the name of the city that he built Shinar, for the Lord had vehemently shaken its enemies and destroyed them. And Nimrod dwelt in Shinar, and he reigned securely, and he fought with his enemies, and he subdued them, and he prospered in all his battles, and his kingdom became very great. And all nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they gathered themselves to him, and they bowed down to the earth, and they brought him offerings, and he became their Lord and King. And they all dwelt with him in the city at Shinar. And Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel. And all the earth was of one tongue, the words of union. But Nimrod did not go in the ways of the Lord, and he was more wicked than all the men that were before him, from the day of the flood until those days. And he made gods of wood and stone, and he bowed down to them. And he rebelled against the Lord, and taught all his subjects and the people of the earth his wicked ways. And Mardon, his son, was more wicked than his father. And everyone that heard of the acts of Mardon, the son of Nimrod, would say concerning him, for the wicked go forth wickedness. Therefore it became a proverb in the earth, in the whole earth, saying, from wickedness goeth forth wickedness. And it was current in the word of men from this time to this. And Terah, the son of Nahor, prince of Nimrod's host, was in those days very great in the sight of the king and his subjects. And the king and princes loved him, and they elevated him very high. And Terah took a wife, and her name was Amthelo, the daughter of Comnibo. The wife of Terah conceived and bare him a son in those days. Terah was 70 years old when he begat him, and Terah called his name of his son that was born to him Abram, because the king had raised him in those days and dignified him above all his princes which were with him. And it was in the night that Abraham was born, that all the servants of Terah and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank at the house of Terah, and they rejoiced with him on that night. And when all the wise men and the conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted up their eyes toward heaven that night and looked at the stars. And when they saw and beheld, one very large star came from the east and ran in the heavens, and he swallowed up 4 stars from the 4 sides of heaven. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight. And the sages understood the matter and knew its import. And they said unto the elder, this only betokens the child that was to be born to Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply, and propose all the earth and his children forever. Verse 21. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together, Put, Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan with their families. And they said to each other, Come, let us build ourselves a city in a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves firm, so that we may reign upon the whole earth, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on the account of their wars. And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words. And the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men, and they went to seek an extensive place to build the city and the tower, and they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one in the valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk. And they journeyed there, and they dwelt there, and they began to make bricks and burn fire to build the city and the tower. And they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin. And they began to build it. And whence they were building against the Lord God to heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend unto heaven. And all these people and all the families divided themselves in three parts. The first said, we will ascend into heaven and fight against him. The second said, we will ascend to heaven and place our God there and serve them. And the third part said, we will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And God knew all their works and all their thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on the account of its heights, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it, until those who went up had completed a full year. And after that, they reached to the builders and gave them mortar and bricks. Thus was it done daily. And behold, these ascended, and others descended the whole day. And if the brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they will all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. And the Lord knew their thoughts. And it came to pass, when they were building, they cast the arrows toward the heavens, and all the arrows fell upon them, fell with blood. And when they saw them, they said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. For this was from the Lord, in order to cause them to err, in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years was elapsed. And God said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongue, that one man should not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one's tongue. And when the builders took from the hand of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon the neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. And the Lord smote the three divisions that was there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and serve our gods," became like apes and elephants. And those who said, "We will smite the heaven with arrows," the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the third division of those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and fight against him," the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. And those who was left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming unto them, they forsook building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Therefore he called the place Babel, for there the Lord confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land Shinar. And as to the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part thereof. And a fire also descended from heaven and burned another third. And another third is left to this day. And it is of that part which was left, and its circumference is 3 days' walk. And many of the men died in that tower, people without number. Verse 20, chapter 10. All these went and built themselves cities, as they found fit places for them. And they called their cities after their names and after their fathers: Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. And the children of Mizraim are Ludam, Anonim, Lehabim, Nephlachim, Pathlachim, Koslachim, Kothlachim, 7 families. And these dwelt by the river Shahar, that is the brook of Egypt. And they built themselves cities and called them after their names. And the children of Patros and Keshlom intermarried together. Now, let me stop there for a moment. Patros is the name of America. This is the first time America is mentioned in the Bible. It was called Patros. The children of Patros and Keshlom intermarried together. From them brought forth Pishlathim, Ashlohim, Andi, Gershlathim, Gathim, and Ekronim, in all 5 families. These also built themselves cities and called their cities after their names, after their fathers, unto this day. And the children of Canaan also built cities, and they called their cities after their names, 11 cities, and others without number. The 4 men from the families of Ham went into the land of the plains. These are the names of the sons of 4 men: Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim. And these are the men built themselves 4 cities in the land of the plain, and they called the names of the cities after their names. And they are the children and all the belongings of them that dwelt in those cities. And they was faithful and multiplied, fruitful and multiplied greatly, and dwelt peaceably. And Shear, the son of Hur, son of Hivi, son of Canaan, went and found a valley opposite to Mount Paran, and he built a city there, and he and his 7 sons and his household dwelt there. And he called the city which was built Seir, according to his name. This is the land of Seir unto this day. Okay, I'm going to stop there. And this ends the segment that Babel will happen again because of man's inability to learn from previous and past mistakes and past misunderstanding. These 3 divisions, people are doing the same thing in this world today. You have built your tower of Babel. You want to go into the heavens and you want to change the heavens. You want to continue worshiping your idols, not only on earth, but you want to take your lifestyle into heaven. And you want to replace God with your idols. And you want to worship them on earth and in heaven. Oh, you're doing the same thing. Oh, it's not going to happen. You don't know who you're dealing with. You have no idea who you're dealing with. You don't know what God means. You think it's what you've been taught, or you tell yourself your God is, that you give him a name, and you think that that's the way the true God is, like the one that you made with your own hands. Oh, you're finna get a rude awakening very soon. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. See, I have warned you and told you before.